Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 4th October 2024. Today again, we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and The Indian Express newspapers, which are very relevant for your exam. In our first topic, we'll look into various dimensions of marital rape in India. After that, we'll look into various challenges pertaining to prison infrastructure in India and why we need certain prison reforms. After that, in our simplified section, we will take up 7 articles and we will try to explain them in simplest language possible to enrich your understanding of the newspapers. So stay tuned. So our first topic is status of marital rape in India. The context of this topic is that Center told the Supreme Court that punishing non-consensual sexual acts by a man with his own wife as rape will impact conjugal relationship. Conjugal relationship are those relationships which emanates out of marriage between two persons. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 1 issues related to women. Now what happened under section 375 of IPC, which mainly looks about all the offences related to rape, and it has now become section 63 of BNS. So under this section 375, there were 2 exceptions that were there. Exception 1 was that if there is a medical procedure or medical intervention, that should not be amount to rape. And second exception to this section was that it excludes non-consensual sexual intercourse by a husband with his wife if the latter is over 15 years of age from the definition of rape. So what does this second exception talks about? That if there is a non-consensual sexual intercourse between husband and wife, and if there was no consent by the wife, even then that will not amount to rape. So the primary factor for defining this particular marital rape or non-consensual sex is lack of consent by the wife. Also, what happened? So there was a PIL filed with the Supreme Court of India that this exception 2 of section 375 is derogatory, is discriminatory to women, is against the various constitutional provisions like right to equality under Article 14, right to privacy under Article 21, etc. And petitioner said that this exception 2 of section 375 should be struck down. Since legislation is a domain of the parliament, union government was also given a notice and they were also made a party. And in this regard only, union government on Thursday told the Supreme Court that punishment of non-consensual sexual acts by a man with his own wife as rape will impact the conjugal relationship and it can lead to serious disturbances in the institution of marriage. It can impact the sanctity of marriage. It can impact the family of that particular person. Also, the center says that demographics of marriage are sui generis, means it have its own unique quality which is not present in any other relationship. There are plenty of examples of male-female relationship. However, the relationship between a husband and wife which emerges as a result of tying a matrimonial knot is distinct from all these relationships, and to ignore or even to seek to undermine this is to ignore the plain reality, center argued. So center says that this relationship between husband and wife that have emanated out of that matrimonial knot, that marriage, is in itself very unique. It is in itself a unique class as compared to any other casual relationship. So it should not be treated like any other relationship, and it can, if that is done, it can have far-reaching implications on institution of marriage. If we talk about the current status, do we have any data with regard to the marital rape? So first of all, it is, if you talk about the legal status, it is covered under the definition of domestic violence and it is defined under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. This sexual violence is defined under this particular act. Also, if we talk about data from International Center for Research on Women, that data came in 2011, it says that 20% of Indian men have reportedly at least once carried out sexual violence against a female partner. If you talk about the data from National Family Health Survey for 2015-16 that they have collected in past 12 months, it says that 6.6% of married women experienced any form of sexual violence in their life in past 12 months. And this data came in 2015-16 back then. 5.6% of married women were physically forced to have sexual intercourse with their husband even when they did not wanted. 2.7% of married women were physically forced to perform sexual activities they did not want to. 3.7% married women were physically forced with threats to perform sexual activities they did not want to. Also, it is also very much important to understand that the sample space of this particular survey was not very broad. It was very limited. Second, that this particular survey, people did not participated much because of general consideration that this sexual intercourse, marriage, etc. is a private affair. So if we talk about why we need to criminalize it, why we need to criminalize non-consensual sex between a husband and wife, why we need to criminalize marital rape, because it is against the right to equality. That is Article 14 of the Constitution. It discriminates between a married and a non-married woman. If there is a non-consensual sex that has happened with an unmarried woman, she may approach the law enforcement agencies and section 375 will be applicable. However, if that woman is married, she cannot approach the law enforcement agencies or the police. So this is against the right to equality of that particular married woman. Also, it is against the right to life and liberty, which is provided under Article 21 of the Constitution. And it is also against the right to privacy, which has emanated out of one famous Supreme Court judgment. You people tell me in the comment box that under which particular Supreme Court judgment Supreme Court says that right to privacy is the fundamental right under the Article 21 of the Constitution. In state of Karnataka versus Krishnappa and Suchita Srivastava versus Chandigarh administration, the Supreme Court affirmed the right to privacy and choices related to sexual activity under Article 21. So Supreme Court again says that this choices related to sexual activity is present under the right to privacy, which is in itself is a fundamental right. So if that is being violated, it leads to violation of right to life and liberty. Also, it defeats the spirit of the section 375, which was mainly framed to punish the non-consensual sexual activities. Also, it is against the bodily autonomy of that particular female, that she do not have that freedom to decide what she wants and what she do not wants to do. It seems that she is a commodity of that particular partner, that particular husband, who whatever he wants, whatever he wants to do, whatever he likes to do, he can do. So that this shows that that particular female do not have any bodily autonomy. Then it is also emanates about the doctrine of coverture, which has came out of English common law, and they have taken it from the French law. In French means covering, and this is mainly a legal principle that merged women's legal identity with that of men's legal identity. Means this doctrine emphasizes on this point that females or women do not have any independent legal identity. Whatever the legal rights they have that out of that men only. So this emphasizes on the patriarchal notion in the society as well as the social discrimination that emanates in the society. Also, if we talk about some of the global precedents, out of 185 countries, there are at least 77 countries in the world which have criminalized the marital rape. And interestingly, that we have taken this section 375 out of IPC, Indian Penal Code, which came in back in the British time period. And we have carried forward that colonial legacy of IPC, and now just we have changed that through BNS and BNSS. So English law, which actually we have inherited, the UK have changed their laws, and in UK at present they have criminalized the marital rape. However, we couldn't do that. So some experts, some people who favor the criminalization of marital rape also emphasizes on this point that since UK, whose laws mainly we have inherited in some or other forms, when they have criminalized, then we should also criminalize. And in this regard only, there was a famous case under Delhi High Court in which there was a split judgment between two judges bench of the Delhi High Court. Justice Rajiv Shekhar have said that sex worker has been invested with power to say no by the law, but not a married woman. And he emphasized that there is a pressing need to criminalize the marital rape because this is against the bodily autonomy, this is against the right to equality as well as right to life and liberty. However, if we see some of the arguments against the criminalization of marital rape, the first is that it can destabilize the marriage as an institution. There is a sanctity that had been provided to the marriage, and all the things that happens after the marriage is generally considered a closed door affair. So it is generally considered that what is happening between husband and wife, it is generally consensual. So there are some experts who believe that if it has been criminalized, it may destabilize the marriage as an institution. Also, some other institutions like family, etc., may get impacted. The children of the legitimate children of those couples may get impacted. Their life, their socialization in future can get impacted. Also, marriage is a sacrament institution. If we involve criminalization, legal lacunas in this, that may affect the sanctity of that marriage. Also, there are implementational challenges if we criminalize this marital rape. Why? Because we have to change our laws. There might be various legal implications that may arise. Also, it may lead to overburdening of the judiciary. There might be more and more cases will come to the judiciary, and it will be very difficult to dispose those cases in a limited amount of time. Also, if we talk about the evidentiary challenges, the challenges related to the evidences, because what happens, it will be very difficult to prove that whether that particular intercourse was consensual or non-consensual. And moreover, as we know that our judiciary mainly relies on the evidences. So it will be very difficult to ensure that there are proper evidences available that can be made available to the court that can actually prove that that particular intercourse was non-consensual. So this may lead to lot of implementational challenges, and we have to mainly rely on the voice of that female, that we have to only trust that voice of the female. Also, there might be cases of potential misuse of these criminalization of marital rape related provisions, and it may further lead to chaos in the society. It may further impact the social cohesion in the society, and again, it, as we have discussed, that it may further overburden the judiciary. Judiciary is already overburdened with more than 4 lakh cases, and it can further burden the judiciary. Also, if we look into the conviction rate of the rape cases, that is very low. As per the NCRB, that is National Crime Record Bureau, conviction has happened only in 2.56% of rape cases that went to trial. If you see, in year 2022, the cases that were reported, that were almost 13,516 cases were there. However, the cases for investigation were almost 44,785 cases. But the conviction has happened only to 5,067 cases. So it shows that there are implementational challenges even for the normal cases under the rape because of lack of evidences, because of proper investigation is not happening. So it will be very difficult to ensure that this criminalization of marital rape could be properly implemented. So what should be the way forward? The first important thing is that we have to remove this exception. We have that exception that is provided under the section 375 of IPC and section 63 of BNS. We have to understand that rape is rape, whether it is happening without consent of a married woman or unmarried woman. So we have to change. We have to go away with that exceptions that is provided under this particular section 375 and section 363. Also, more than this striking of this exception, we need that societal change. That mindset should change. That gender stereotyping should be dismantled. That we have to get away with that patriarchal notion that women are just a commodity. We have to leave that notion that men are only capable of some instrumental roles and women are only capable of some expressive roles. Because until and unless that societal change will come, it will be very difficult to implement properly these kind of laws. See, laws can come. There are multiple laws for different crimes in India, but are they able to completely curtail that particular crime? No, it is not. The reason is that until and unless that change will come from the society itself, it will be very difficult for a particular law to curtail that crime completely. So we need that societal change, that mindset change, and we have to also dismantle the gender stereotype within ourselves. Also, we need to shift our attitudes towards women. We should see them out of respect. Apart from this, there is need for speedy trial, especially about all the pending cases that are there, and that if there will be speedy trial, if there will be conviction, more and more women can come in future and they may report their non-consensual intercourse. Also, there is need for equality and non-discrimination between a married and unmarried woman, because this is what our constitution and constitution makers wants. Also, we should understand that marriage is not a license or a substitute for a woman's consent. Women's consent is important, and it is important every time, and we have to understand that. A mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic is that discuss the various arguments in favor and against of criminalizing marital rape in India. Second topic is need for prison reforms in India. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, social empowerment, issues arising out of design and implementation of policies. The context of this topic is that Supreme Court said that the caste bias segregation in prisons violates the dignity of individuals, dignity of those prisoners. The bench says that everyone is born equal and cannot suffer lifelong due to stigma attached to their caste. So the directions that the Supreme Court says that the state and UTs should revise their prison manuals, their rules in 3 months. Center should address the caste-based discrimination in the Model Prison Manuals 2016 and the Model Prison Correctional Services Act 2023 in 3 months. The caste column and references to caste in prisoners' registers should be removed. So what is happening as of now, if a person is going to prison, there are registers where all the details of that particular prisoner is mentioned. And there is one column in which the caste of that particular prisoner is also mentioned. And based on that particular caste in that particular prison, there is a segregation based on the different caste. And generally, the low caste people are segregated from upper caste people. There is a specific cell, specific area where those high caste people would be there and the specific area where low caste people would be there. So there is a segregation in the prison itself. And Supreme Court gave directions against this segregation, and they have directed that this should be done away within 3 months. Also, you have to understand that why Supreme Court or directed the state and union territories to revise their prison manuals is because prison is a state subject under the 7th schedule of the constitution under the state list. Now you tell me in the comment box which particular article of the constitution also talks about 3 lists, that is union list, state list and the concurrent list. If you talk about other data related to status of prisons, as per the National Crime Record Bureau, there are at least 2.5 lakh people in India who are currently in jail without having been proven guilty. There are at least 66% of prisoners in India who are under trials, and these prisoners are even not aware of their rights under section 436A. Also, there is lack of proper legal aid that is being provided to these people. So what is this section 436A? That if there is a person who is serving under trial, who is going under trial in a particular prison, and he have served that amount of sentence, that he would be awarded after getting that conviction. Let's take a very basic example that if a person have done a theft, and for let's suppose theft there is a punishment of 3 years. If that person have gone 3 years under trial, then he should come out, he should get bail under the section 436A, because he or she have already served that amount of sentence which he may have to after getting convicted for that particular offense. If we talk about other issues pertaining to prisons at large, then there are issues of under trials, that our prisons are overcrowded. As per the data of NCRB in 2021, the occupancy rate is at least 130%. And this lead to overcrowding of prisons, and this further emanates various other issues. For example, the crime, the violence that happens inside the prisons, various organized crimes that are being run from that particular prison. There has been various cases where several murders etc. have also been done in broad daylight under the CCTV cameras of various prisoners in the prisons. Because of this overcrowding, these all issues are happening. Also, it further creates issues like lack of proper health and hygiene, lack of proper potable water, lack of proper food, because whatever the resources that are there, they are being overburdened. The resources are for 100%, but when 130 persons are there, it will impact the quality of those resources. Also, it leads to if we talk about other issues at large with the prison, that there are issues of the custodial torture also. And it has been explicitly said not to happen under the D.K. Basu case 1986, which explicitly said against the custodial torture. Also, the prisoners have lack of awareness about their rights, whether the rights they have available under the section 436A, or whether they have whatever the rights they have under the legal aid that they can get through NALSA etc. All these rights they are not aware of. Also, they have lack of proper support systems. They even what happens after getting a proper prosecutions, after only getting allegations that this particular person is a criminal, society thinks that that particular person is a complete criminal even without even without waiting for the judgment of the court. At that point of time, a complete cutoff happens of that particular person with the family, with the society also. And at extreme cases, these people also commit suicides in the prison itself. Also, there is a lot of poverty as highlighted by multidimensional poverty index etc. So when there is a lot of poverty, and these people even do not have basic money to fill that bond that is required to come out of bail, and there are some people who thinks that they will not have proper resources to sustain themselves, so better would be that remain in this jail itself, because at least we are getting some food in this jail. Also, the societal non-acceptance, that even that particular person who has served his or her jail term for the offense that he or she has committed, the society labels that particular person as a criminal for the lifetime. The society is not ready to accept that person with open hands. So this also creates an issue that these persons are not properly rehabilitated in the society, and at extreme cases they further gets attracted towards several other crimes. If you talk about various committees that were formed with regard to prison reforms, there was Rajendra Prasad committee that came in 1953 that recommended improvement of prison infrastructure, provision of adequate facilities for prisoners, establishment of open prisons for low risk offenders. Then M.R. Masani committee that came in 1978 that calls for abolition of solitary confinement, introduction of parole and probation systems, emphasis on rehabilitation of prisoners. Then a V.R. Krishna Iyer committee came in 1983 that emphasizes on decongestion of prisoners, especially the overcrowded, overpopulated prisoners, implementation of alternative sentencing options, promotion of legal aid to prisoners. Also, there was a Malimat committee that came in 2003 that focused on reforms in criminal justice system. Overall criminal justice system needs to be reformed. Improvement of prison conditions, establishment of specialized prisons for women and juveniles. And they have also emphasized on some basic necessities that should be made available to the women and juvenile prisoners. Then a Justice Amitav Rao committee was set up in year 2018, and they focused on that there should be speedy trials, so that the prisoners should only spend a limited amount of time under trial. Also, they emphasized on increasing lawyer to prisoner ratio, introduction of special courts, avoiding adjournment, and there should be also some provisions so that there should be weekly phone calls that should be provided to that particular prisoner, so that he or she may remain properly connected with his or her family. Then if we talk about the way forward, what should be the way forward? The pre-trial detention should be a matter of last resort. If we have to first see that that person, that particular offender, is he threat to the society? If yes, then we should go for pre-trial detention. Also, we need to focus heavily on the infrastructure improvement, whether it is about the cells that are being made, whether it is about the basic necessities like beds, etc., that are being made available. Also, there is need for proper rehabilitation programs that needs to be run. Also, there is need for ensuring speedy trials, so that we can reduce the time that we are devoting at this point of time, because this actually can help in decongesting the prisons. The overcrowding of the prisons can be tackled. Also, legal aid should be provided free of cost, especially to the poor and the people who do not have proper resources. Also, there is need for proper monitoring and enforcement of all the facilities, all the legal aid that is being provided by the government, and whatever the schemes that are being run by the government, there is need for proper oversight mechanism to ensure that whether those schemes are being properly implemented or not. Then there is also need for accountability and training of the officials, especially the prison officials, that they should be well equipped to deal with these prisoners, especially the high crimes that are happening, especially the use of technology that are being done from the prisons itself. We need to develop proper capacity to these officials. We have to properly train them that they can actually address those issues properly. Also, we have to ensure that the vacancies that are there with regard to the prison officials, that should be fulfilled in due times. Also, as suggested by our Honorable Prime Minister, that we should focus on smart policing, means that S is for strict but sensitive, that police should be, the officials should be strict, but they should be sensitive towards the people. That they should be modern and mobile, they should be alert and accountable, and they should be reliable and responsive, as well as they should be tech savvy, as well as trained with the 21st century technologies. A mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic is that discuss the major lacunas in prison infrastructure, suggest some measures that can be taken to improve the overall prison infrastructure. In our simplified section, first topic is new classical language. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 1, Indian culture and literature, syllabus of your GS paper 2, Indian constitution, government policies and intervention. And this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 6. So context is that Union Cabinet on Thursday approved classification of languages, classical language status to Marathi, Bengali, Assamese, Pali and Prakrit. So how many language? Total 5 languages has been given classical language status, and there were earlier 6 other languages, means total classical language status language has become now 11. And what are those 6 classical languages that we had already classical language status? They are Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Sanskrit, Odia. And Tamil was the first language to be given classical status in 2004, followed by Sanskrit, which got this classical language status in the year 2005. Actually, this classical language status was announced in 2004 itself, and this criteria in detail was given in year 2006. And If we talk about some of the criteria that is needed to be fulfilled for conferring this status of classical language are that there should be high antiquity of early text recorded history over of at least 1500 to 2000 years. A body of ancient literature or text which is considered a valuable heritage by generations of the speakers. There should, for that particular language, there should be ancient literature and text which should be considered very valuable. The literary tradition to be original and not borrowed from another speech community, means that the literary tradition should be unique in itself. The classical language and literature being distinct from modern, there may also be discontinuity between the classical language and its later forms or its offshoots. If you talk about various benefits that one language get after getting this classical language status, is that it helps in promoting the language, their cultural preservation, academic research and overall recognition of that linguistic heritage. Also, it enhances awareness of those languages. It also strengthens the linguistic identity of those speakers of those languages. Also, it ensures that ancient literary texts, manuscripts and works are conserved properly. Also, students pursuing higher study in classical language can get some benefits in form of various scholarship. Also, there are various other benefits, like some institutions can be set up especially for that particular language, that new courses can be launched for that particular language in some of the universities. So there are multiple benefits. Also, the government of India says that due to conferring of these classical language status, there might be more and more jobs and employment that will be created, especially the people who are dependent, especially the people who are working in the domain of these languages. A prelims previous year question was asked from this particular topic that you can solve, and this was asked in year 2015, which one of the following was given a classical language status recently. 4 options are there: Odia, Konkani, Bhojpuri and Assamese. Please try to answer this question and give your answers in the comment box, and keep in mind that this question was asked in 2015, when how many numbers of classical language we have. Just think it and then give the answer of this particular question. Our next topic is why North Bihar sees flood every year, and that has appeared in today's The Indian Express newspaper, page number 17. And this particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, government policies and interventions, and syllabus of your GS paper 3, disaster management. So the context is that some 15.7 lakh people in 17 districts have been affected by ongoing floods in northern Bihar, the State Disaster Management Department said on Thursday. North Bihar is flooded every monsoon. Crops and livelihoods are destroyed. The people are driven from their homes, forced to survive on air-dropped food and relief items. What makes this North Bihar area so prone to floods every year? The reason this year is extremely heavy rainfall and floods in the Nepal, and release of at least 6.6 lakh cusick from the Birpur barrage on the Kosi river there, the largest volume in almost 6 decades. So from the upper reaches, the Kosi comes, and whatever the water that is released by the dams or the barrages located in Nepal, when that particular water comes in the Bihar region, that creates lot of havoc, and lot of area got inundated and leads to severe floods in many parts of northern Bihar. Also, if you talk about the geographical region, numerous snow and rain-fed rivers crisscross Bihar, whether it is Gandak, Ghagra, Bagmati, Budi Gandak, Kosi, Mahananda, etc. And the state which the government's flood management improved center describes that India's most flood prone, with about 76% of North Bihar population living under the recurring threat of flood devastation. And the disaster management department identifies 4 kinds of floods. First is the flash flood that occurred due to rainfall in Nepal, and they have a short lead time, means the time between the forecast and the actual flood condition is very low. So we at that, due to this flash flood, at the time of this flash floods, we can't provide much help to the people. And at that point of time, if there is proper communication channels, and if those communication channels can be used properly, then the lives can be saved. Otherwise it will be very difficult, because there is very short gap between the forecast and the actual coming of those flood. Also, the second kind of flood is the river flood, which have a lead time of 24 hours, but it could take more than a week for the water to recede. Here we have a little time for mitigation and adaptation. Also, the drainage congestion in river confluence has a lead time of more than 24 hours. The flood could last throughout the monsoon, and there are some permanent waterlogged areas. So they have classified under these four subheads. And these flash floods and the river floods are those kind of floods which creates major issues. The first three kind of floods are mainly due to Bihar's location immediately to south of Nepal, from where Himalayan river carry massive volumes of loose soil as well as the sediment downstream. As rain swell, river like Kosi, Gandak, Mahananda, etc., they overflow their bank easily. And fourth category, that is permanent waterlogging, is result of factors including spilling of silted small river, encroachment of drainage channels, embankment induced waterlogging, and presence of saucer-shaped depression locally called Chagos. And according to Flood Hazard Atlas of Bihar, which is prepared by Indian Space Research Organization with the central and the state government, the chores are types typically created by river which change its course in the due time. So this saucer shape, that is also called chores or chores, that also creates more and more kind of floods in those areas. And especially the Koshi embankment, that is also one of the important reason that breaking of these embankment, especially the Koshi embankments, creates further flood like situations. And this Koshi is also called as sorrow of Bihar. And what happens actually, there are various embankments that were created especially to tackle the floods that were emanating out of Kosi river. However, due to silting of these river channels of the Kosi, these water further pushes on the borders of these embankments. And there has been various instances, and this year also there has been various instances when these embankments were broken down, and that created a situation of flood in various areas where Kosi is flowing. And if we talk about what can be the other reason, another reason that some experts believe is the Farka barrage that was created. After that, there has been more and more silt that was accumulating, especially in the river channel areas of the tributaries of Ganga, as well as in Ganga and in the Bihar regions also. That has made prone to some of the areas surrounding to these tributaries as well as to the Ganga areas. Now, what are the ways to deal with these solutions? First is the structural solutions such as dam, embankment, etc. But we have to understand that it is not possible to completely deal with this problem through these structural measures until and unless we ensure that there is proper desilting that is happening, and that desilting should happen before the monsoon season. There is proper maintenance of these embankments, and this can be done properly by ensuring that there is proper community involvement. And in this regard, only local bodies can be of great help. The panchayats, municipal, urban local bodies, they can be provided funds, and there should be proper oversight mechanism, and they can help of great help in tackling these challenges. Also, non-structural solutions, which includes laws, policy, risk reduction, mitigation, etc. Since the geography of Bihar can't be changed, there is a great need to work on aspects like adequate warnings, quick reaction times, awareness and training in dealing with floods. The Flood Atlas says minimizing risk and damage from floods may be more a rational way of flood management from formulating structural measures along the dynamic rivers such as Kosi, which keep on changing its channels, its course every year. Our next topic is Chagos Island matter. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your prelims, current events of national and international importance, and this has appeared in the Indian Express, page number 17. So what is the context? Let's try to understand first. The United Kingdom on Thursday said that it would cede sovereignty of the strategically important Chagos Island to Mauritius. The British Foreign Minister David Lammy said that the deal settled the contested sovereignty of Britain's last overseas territory in Africa while securing the long-term future of Diego Garcia military base jointly operated by UK and US. So what is happening? This Chagos archipelago comprises of 58 islands, and this lies roughly 500 kilometers south of Maldives archipelago in Indian Ocean. And these islands were uninhabited until late 18th century when the French brought in slave labor from Africa and India to work in newly established coconut plantation. And in 1814, France ceded the islands to British. In 1965, the UK constituted the British Indian Ocean Territory, of which the Chagos Islands were a central part, and Chagos was attached to Mauritius, another British colony in Indian Ocean for the administrative purposes. So what is happening? Let's try to understand. This is the location of Chagos archipelago, and this is, you can see, very near to the Lakshadweep and very near to the Maldives as well as Mauritius. So this was a British colonial territory. As you would be knowing that India was also a British colonial territory, and we got independence in year 1947. But this particular island, this particular area, Britishers do not wanted to leave because of its strategic location. And in this regard only, so the Mauritius have also approached the UN General Assembly as well as ICJ court, where they have got the verdict on their favor. And in this regard only, the UK have to leave this particular island. But what happened? There is a small island named Diego Garcia, which is located at the southern end of this Chagos Island. So Diego Garcia was not given to Mauritius even today because of its strategic location, where a military base is located, and which is being operated by both UK and US. This Diego Garcia became a fully operational military base in 1986, and according to an article Foreign Policy magazine, thanks to its vital location, the island houses a military base that serves a critical node for American air operations during Gulf War and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan post 9/11, and it has also been allegedly used as a detention center by US. And given the ongoing tensions that are happening, whether it is between Iran and Israel or between the other countries in the West Asia, Central Asia region, maintaining a presence in this particular area is of vital importance for both UK as well as US and for all the other countries of the NATO. You please tell me in the comment box that which is the country which have recently joined the NATO, which is the latest entrant in the NATO grouping. And if we talk about the significance of this treaty, Mauritius has long claimed the UK illegally occupies this Chagos and has raised the matter many times in international fora. In 2017, UN General Assembly voted to ask the International Court of Justice to examine the legal status of Chagos, and 2 years later, the UNGA adopted a resolution welcoming an ICJ advisory opinion demanding that United Kingdom unconditionally withdraw its colonial administration from the area within 6 months. And if you talk about stance of India, what stance India have taken? So as a nation formerly colonized by Britain, India has maintained steadfast support to Mauritius' claims over the Chagos Islands. It voted in favor of islands country at the UNGA in 2019. And in recent years, India has attempted to deepen its ties with Mauritius, especially with regard to its strategic location, a large diaspora, Indian diaspora that is living in Mauritius, and also amid China's ever increasing assertiveness in the Indian Ocean region. Earlier this year, an Indian built airstrip and a jetty was inaugurated at Agalega, a 2-island dependency of Mauritius in Western Indian Ocean. Next topic is both for and against. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, Federalism, Cooperative Federalism, Representation of People's Act and Center-State Relation, and this has appeared in the Indian Express page number 10. So what this particular editorial is all about? So Pratap Bhanu Mehta, sir who have written this particular editorial, you can directly quote name of Pratap Bhanu Mehta in your mains answer, especially the people who have sociology optionals and other optionals, humanities optionals. So what is happening? He have written this editorial with regard to the simultaneous elections. So simultaneous elections mainly talks about conducting elections of both general Lok Sabha election and the assembly election at the same time. And there are some experts who believe, especially in the government, that this will have a far-reaching benefits, that it will help in ensuring that logistics cost remains low, that the money that Election Commission of India has to spend to conduct election. Also, it may increase the voting percentage, because the people do not have to visit frequently these polling stations for different kind of elections. Rather, they have to visit once, and they will be able to conduct election. They will be able to vote in that particular election. Also, other benefits like governance disruptions that we feel, especially due to implementation of model code of conduct, all that can be also addressed well. So what actually the writer of this editorial have done? He have criticized the critics of the simultaneous elections. What he says, that there are some people who says that idea is necessary for national unity. However, the government efficiency for reducing election expenses dilutes its speculation at its best. Also, first, it is not very clear that why one nation, one election is thought to be incompatible with India's diversity. Why should synchronization of elections necessary will have impact on diversity? The argument seems to be the exact mirror of government's argument that it is necessary for national unity. So the writer says that one nation, one election will neither impact the diversity, will not as such increase the unity that government is saying. The second, he says that it is not clear why such a proposal necessarily entails an impatience with the clutter of democratic politics. And he says that it seems that many of the critics seems to want to reduce democracy just to staggered elections, not even the number, since the number will remain similar and partisan competition. So what he says that democracy is not only about the elections. Democracy is not only limited to the elections. That the democratic spirit of our nation will be impacted if we are going for one nation, one election, or we are not going for one nation, one election. There are various other components of the democracy apart from conducting the elections. That whether there is internal democracy in the electoral parties or not, whether everyone have access to resources to contest the elections or not, whether properly the voices of the people are being channelized into the parliament or not, whether all the laws that are being made are the voice of people or not. So there are various other components. It is not only limited to the elections. Also, the writer says that one nation, one election might actually be a good for social movements, since one of the ways in which our democracy has been impoverished is that we have let the partisanship colonize democracy all the way down. Elections are one mode, and their essence is not just voter accountability but partisanship. So it says that when there will be one nation, one election, the social movement, especially the role of civil society organizations, will increase, and the people who are getting elected will be more accountable to their voters. Also, the writer says that it is not clear why one nation, one election necessarily entails presidentialism, or that it will nationalize state elections. We have to understand that there is an anti-democratic elitism in this argument, that we are thinking that voters are not intelligent enough to distinguish local versus national issues or candidate. And in this regard only, it is very evident from the elections, especially the assembly elections, which has been done with the general elections, whether it was in 2014, whether it was in 2019, or whether it was in 2024. It is not the case that party who gained the mandate, the party who formed their government in 2014, 19 and 24 at the central level is the same party which won all the elections in the state assemblies. It shows that voter, while choosing the state representatives and while choosing the national representatives, have a different thinking, have a different mindset. Now the voter is well capable of ensuring they are well capable of distinguishing their state priorities, their national priorities. Also, that writer says that there is a worry that this signifies the diminution of power of the representative and hence the dignity of legislative assemblies like parliament also get diminishes. That this shows that there are some apprehensions, there are some critics which says that the powers of the people who are getting elected is being diminished. But the writer says that has been already diminished by anti-defection law, where a particular person who have elected, whether as a member of parliament or member of legislative assembly, have to follow the party lines. If he or she is not following the party lines, he may be removed from the primary membership, as well as his membership from that particular house may also be removed. Also, the no confidence motion that comes, that also ensures the confidence in the parliament, whether the particular party have majority in the parliament or not. So we have to understand that the dignity of parliament has to be restored, but again, one nation, one election may be orthogonal to it. There is a tricky issue of what happens if government falls midway. So at that point of time, what we will do, whether we will only have that particular amount of time would be given to that particular assembly, which was previously what we follow actually in the panchayat elections or the urban local body elections, or that assembly or that particular parliament will work for full-fledged 5 years. So there is no clarity on that. Also, moving to one nation, one election will be constitutionally cumbersome. It is actually not clear that it will reduce expenditure, especially if we think of expenditure by candidates. It is not clear it will reduce the pressure for fiscal populism, especially the various government initiatives or various government measures, that farm loan waivers or some populist schemes that government launch, for example, electricity subsidy, water subsidy, etc. There is no surety that those kind of measures will be reduced. Also, in a competitive political system, if there is a no consensus on norms, all parties will continue to outbid each other in what they offer the electorate, no matter when the election. And clearly the biggest risk of proposal is not having any electoral mechanism for expressing discontent for full 5 years. There is one kind of democratic clutter that it would be good to have more empowered local governments. That actually, in true sense, we can realize the true sense of democratic spirit, democratic principles properly if we are empowering our local bodies, local government, whether it is panchayats, whether it is urban local bodies or municipalities. Also, democracy needs an imagination beyond the timing of elections. That we need to empower our voter, we need to empower our electorate, as well as the person who are getting elected, they needs to also be empowered. And what a beautiful line this writer have written to end this editorial. You can use these kind of lines in your answers as well as in your essays. Our next topic is 2 new schemes for agri sector. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, government policies and interventions, and syllabus of your GS paper 3, agriculture. And this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 6. So context is that Union Cabinet on Thursday decided to merge all central scheme in the agriculture sector in 2 schemes, that is Pradhan Mantri Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana and Krishnoti Yojana, with a projected expenditure of 1,01,321.61 crore, and the schemes will have a central share of 69,088.98 crore and states will have to add the remaining 32,232.60 crores. The PM RKVY with an allocation of this much is aimed at promoting sustainable agriculture, and the Krishnoti Yojana will address the food security and agricultural self-sufficiency with the fund of 44,246.89 crore. And both schemes will be implemented through state government, and center said that rationalization of various schemes was to avoid duplication and ensure convergence and provide flexibility to states to implement these schemes. Also, focusing on emergent challenges of agriculture such as nutritional security, sustainability, climate resilience, agricultural development, value chain development, and private sector participation, which has also been recommended by various committees like Santa Kumar Committee, is being envisaged under these 2 schemes. Also, The cabinet also approved a national mission on edible oilseeds for boosting the domestic oilseed production and achieving self-reliance in edible oils. Next topic is status of Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, government policies and intervention, welfare schemes, health, and this has appeared again in the Hindu paper, page number 10. The context is that the story so far is that India has more than 3,000 legacy waste dump site with 2,424 of them having a waste load of more than 1,000 ton. What are legacy waste dump site? These are dump site that contain solid waste that have been collected and stored for years in an unscientific and uncontrolled as well as unsustainable manner. For example, municipal solid waste generation in India is estimated to be around 1,50,000 ton per day according to the State of India's Environment 2023 report. And if you talk about a legacy waste dump site located in the Delhi NCR region, that is the Gazipur landfill site, which have taken the lives of several other people, and it is also creating various issues like respiratory issues and air pollution, etc. at a regular interval. These legacy dump sites actually originally developed on the outskirts of the cities. However, with the expansion of the cities, these sites are now often found in the heart of cities, on barren lands or in landfills. According to estimates of Union Housing Urban Affairs Ministry, around 15,000 acres of prime real estate is buried under nearly 16 crore ton of legacy waste across the country. At this point of time, these areas which are being occupied with these legacy dump site, if we sustainably dispose that particular waste, we can actually use that prime locations, prime real estate for the welfare of the citizens. If you talk about various health hazards that it is creating, it can irritate mouth and throat. The inhaling methane and landfills can cause nausea, vomiting, loss of coordination. Rag pickers who work at landfills can develop skin allergies from years of exposure to waste. People who live near landfills may be prone to developing tuberculosis, asthma, diabetes, depressions, etc. If you talk about Swachh Bharat Mission, this was a countrywide campaign launched by the central government on October 2, 2014 to eliminate the open defecation and create open defecation free villages, and mission actually aimed to achieve open defecation free India by October 2, 2019, coinciding with 150th birth anniversary of Shri Mahatma Gandhi ji through the construction of toilet. And in 2021, Government of India launched the second edition of Swachh Bharat Mission. The Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0 committed to make all cities garbage free by 2026 while maintaining the ODF status across 4,372 urban local bodies. It also has a vision of 100% source segregation, door-to-door collection and scientific management of all fractions of waste, whether it is the dry waste, whether it is the biological waste, wet waste, etc. And the Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0 also aims to remediate all legacy dump sites and convert them into green zones. And mission has also made provisions for scientific landfills to dispose of untreated inert waste and process rejects in order to prevent fresh dump sites being created. If you talk about the progress that we have seen so far, as per the dashboard of Swachh Bharat Mission website, as on September 24, out of 2,424 dump sites, 471 sites have been remediated, and remediation in 1,226 has been approved and is ongoing, and 727 sites have been untouched. As far as area is concerned, total 17,039.7 acres, 27% has been reclaimed so far and 73% is yet to be reclaimed. And you should think that what is the target we have set to achieve, that is 2026. Less than almost 2 years is left. Among states, Tamil Nadu has the maximum area reclaimed from dump sites, that is almost 42%, and Gujarat is the best performing states with 75% area of landfills that has been reclaimed under the Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0. Next topic is functionality and essentially test. The Supreme Court have said that functionality and essentially test is important to claim the input tax credit. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, growth and development, constitutional bodies, and this has appeared in today's The Indian Express, page number 9. So let's try to understand the context. The Supreme Court on Thursday said that real estate companies can claim input tax credit under the goods and services regime on cost of construction for commercial structures intended for renting or leasing purposes. For example, if a company is building a mall and they want to lease, then they can achieve that they can claim that input tax credit on the cements, on the iron bar, steel bars, whatever being used as an input for construction of that particular real estate. The judgment give a flip to the real estate sector. If the building qualifies to be plant, ITC can be availed against the supply of services in the recipient of service was for his own in the a form of renting or leasing the building or premises, provided the other terms and conditions of the CGST Acts and rules framed are fulfilled. However, code says that if the construction of buildings by the recipient is for own use, then that particular person cannot claim that input tax credit. You would be aware of the fact that input tax credit means whatever the tax that is already paid on the inputs that can be claimed by the ultimate producer, that can be claimed by the ultimate person at the last rung of that particular chain. And if you talk about the essentiality test, that requires the procurement of goods and services to be directly essential to the business operations, while the functionality test says that it assesses whether the inputs that are being used, they are functionally integral to the performance or output of that particular business. For example, if a furniture making factory is there, then the wood that is required to produce that particular furniture can be a essential factor, whereas the machine that will actually make that particular furniture can be called as a functional component. So this was all from today's Analyst. Thank you very much. All the best. Keep studying.